Hey folks, this is Justin at Metcalf Mills. This is the little patch that I cleared off back a few months back. This is going to be the green patch for this winter. We're going to sow some mustard and kale here. What I've done, after I cleaned it off, I disc it up and let the weeds come back in. Then I mowed them down with a bush hog, and now I'm going to disc it up again in preparation for sowing the greens. Let's get it done. What I got here is just some regular old sand. It's a little damp, which is, I'd rather have it dry, but if you got damp sand, you use damp sand. I put a little in the bottom of the bucket here. Take my mustard seed and sprinkle a little bit in there. More sand. More mustard, more sand, more mustard, more sand, more mustard. You want a spacing of about 6 inches by 6 inches on this mustard, so it's got room to grow. You get it too crowded, it won't do so good. And you just kind of have to guess at it, unless you're going to go through there and plant mustard seed by hand, and I ain't, so this is how I'm going to do it. And you just mix that all up real good. You layer it like that if you got damp sand especially, so it won't all glob up and be together so much. Just stir it up real good, mix it up, and then you can sow it. Mixing this up like this, mixing your seed and sand, I've heard people talk about doing that, especially when there's growing a lot of backer around here in this area. They'd mix their backer seed up in sand to sow their backer beds so it wouldn't be too thick. But I learned how to do this right here with mustard greens from Uncle Dave. So hats off to Uncle Dave for all his help on a lot of things. All right, we're gonna sow it now. Now the way I broadcast this by hand is I just get a comfortable little handful and I make a closed hand like this, but I leave my pointer finger kind of hanging loose. If you're familiar with a seed spreader, they got those little fingers that sling the seed out. That's kind of what I'm trying to emulate here with this pointer finger. And I just work my hand and just let a little bit come out to that pointer finger, and it'll just broadcast it right out. Just takes a little bit of practice, but it's not that hard to do. You just want to try to get it as even as you can. That's how I do it. Now, when these things grows, month or two, we should be eating some good mustard greens. And I love mustard greens. If you've watched this channel any length of time, you know that. I absolutely love them. So I'm excited every year when it's time to sow fall greens, and sometimes I'll take and spread plastic over them or something and help them last longer into the winter. The first really hard freeze usually bites them back pretty good, but I try to make them last as long as I can. I also sow some kale and whatnot. That stuff will hold up a lot better through the bad cold spell. Folks, right now is the time to sow some greens to eat this fall. Right now in western North Carolina. Other places I can't speak for, but right here in western North Carolina, check your zone chart. Right here, it's time to sow fall greens. Right now is the time to do it. We got some rain coming in tomorrow, supposedly, so I wanted to get them in the ground so they can start growing. Folks, I'm bad to do some diverse things, like sowing a little bit of kale at the end of my mustard patch. I like kale, it's good greens, it's healthy, it's real good for you. So I'm gonna just sprinkle in a little bit of kale right down this end right here, where I can run in here and grab a little bit and take it back home to eat. I'm not gonna be using sand with it because I'm spreading out just a small amount. I don't want to mix a bunch of sand up just for this small spot, so I'm going to do the same exact thing with my finger, very, very lightly. Do not oversow this stuff because it won't do as good. So we're going to sow it really lightly down through here. I don't care a bit to throw a few seeds out because that's just more food growing. And you never know. I'll have probably mustard growing in 2 or 3 different spots. Kale too. If it don't do so good in one spot, maybe it will in another place. That's green insurance is what I call that. Green insurance. Folks, this is the patch that I sow my mustard greens in. And this patch don't belong to me. It is belongs to a neighbor that was kind enough to let me use it. Now this is the one I cleaned up a couple months back. It was overgrown, had trees on it. I cleaned it up, done all that, left it lay, then bush hogged it, disc it up. Now it's got mustard greens sowed on it. So if you don't have a spot, I mean, look around, talk to your neighbors. That's a good excuse to go meet your neighbors, talk to them. If they have a lot of land, chances are they might let you use a little bit. I'm thankful for good neighbors, and I've got a few around here. All right, folks, these mustard greens are sowed. All they need now is a little rain and growing, and then they'll need some eating. And I'm all ready to do that. I hope you've enjoyed this. I sure did enjoy sharing it with you. If you ain't subscribed to my channel yet, why don't you go ahead and do that? I got a lot of good stuff to share. And I look forward to seeing you next time.